People are chatting in the text.
Yeah, I see one person who has mentioned that they have no sound. That may just be that nobody is talking. So hopefully you can hear us when we do start to speak. But for the moment, we are just waiting for people to trickle in, and we'll get things going here shortly. So thank you all for joining us this evening.
Hey, Daniel, while we're waiting, who did the video overall for the whole presentation there?
Sure, yeah, that was done by some friends of the organization. They have done previous work with us. Corey Jones is one of the principal cinematographers. He was formerly with an outfit called One with Nature. I'm not sure what actually his business is now. I'm sure Kyla or Jamie could jump in there, but they do exceptional work, and I think we will all agree that there's almost no better way to really illustrate the value of these properties than through this kind of video. It just takes you there in a way that you just don't otherwise get an opportunity, especially those sort of drone's eye views. So we're delighted.
Very much so.
Very, very professional.
Thank you.
So well done, you guys. Not surprised at all, but man, what an incredible video and way to get us all together in COVID times.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Brooke. Loved your comment in there in the chat too.
Yeah.
Great to see you all too.
All right, well, I think our numbers joining have stabilized a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get started. I think many of you know who I am, but just in case you don't, of course, I'm Kyla Detman, Executive Director of the Land Conservancy. And before we get started, just a few reminders that we are on a Zoom meeting. So just do, for those of you who aren't using it all the time, and even those of you who use it a lot, good to just get those reminders out there. So please stay on mute unless you're asking a question. So that helps us all hear all of the discussion. And you can submit, the best way to submit questions is to submit them in the chat. And as we go, Heather, who you'll be introduced to in a little bit, will help us, the directors, and we'll go from there. We had some questions submitted up front, and we will get some of those out as well. And just really encourage conversation. We're trying to replicate what we all get to experience at our annual reception when we do it in person, a little bit of this social aspect. So before I introduce the rest of our team, I wanted to just say a few words about this last year. I was trying to come up with some powerful words to describe this year, and I really couldn't think beyond all those that we've heard over and over again, like challenging, unprecedented, tough, pivot, adapt, social distance. It's been it's been a doozy. So I decided to actually borrow something from my mom and my dad. They sent out their holiday card and they said, well, that was something. So I'm just going to describe it as a something of a year. But all kidding aside, tonight I really want to hold space for everyone here and throughout our community who's faced myriad challenges and felt significant loss in a lot of different ways, whether that's businesses having a really tough time, whether that's losing loved ones, the wildfires. There's just so much there, and we want to hold space for that and acknowledge that while we celebrate the successes of this last year and what's to come. So really appreciate all of you being here with us this evening. And despite it being that something of a year, incredible things happened in the world of conservation here in SLO County. And you got a really great look at it in the film. And I encourage you to go back and watch it. We will, as many times as you want, we'll be leaving that up for the long term. And, the years ahead are bright. The Pismo Preserve's open. People are enjoying it like crazy. It's such a popular spot. We have 8,500 acres set to close in the next 12 months, which is just really exciting to be protecting so many special places in our county. We're hoping to open the Octagon Barn Center soon, and we can talk more about that in the conversation tonight. And there's just so much more highly impactful conservation on the horizon. We're excited to get kids back into our Learning Among the Oaks program in person. Thankfully, we were able to keep the program going during the pandemic, but in a different way. And so we can't wait to get back in person with more kids this year. And just so much on the horizon, and tens of thousands of acres in the next few years. So we could not do it without all of you and everyone else in the community that's making it happen. And so, you know, I'm just really personally so excited about what's happened in the last few years and what's to come. So, you know, with that, let's go ahead and jump into more of the question and answer session. So I'm going to introduce our awesome dedicated deputy director and my partner in crime, Daniel Bowman. So Daniel, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Kyla, and thank you everybody for joining us here this evening. Wow, just what an exceptional video. I hope that you all enjoyed it as much as I did and we did making it. And before I get started and introduce myself more, I would just like to really thank the sponsors who helped make that video possible. You know, when we dreamed up this concept, we knew that we were going to need some resources to make that happen, and we reached out to the local community to help underwrite the cost of that production. And thankfully, a lot of our local businesses really stepped up. You saw them there on the slide, and I'm sure you'll see them again here later on. So just if you know anybody there, or if you're looking for some services that they might provide, I encourage you to reach out to them. And also to those sponsors that provided product that has ended up in one of the many gift bags that we put together in support of this event. So hopefully you were one of the few that got one of those great gift bags, and you're sitting there in your home enjoying a bottle of wine or a can of hard sparkling seltzer or something to that extent. As Kyla pointed out, I'm the deputy director. I have been with the Conservancy going on about 16 years now, and it's just truly my pleasure to work on behalf of the community to protect all these exceptional lands that you saw not only in this video, but so many more, thousands of acres more that you didn't see here tonight. So I will be on hand to answer questions. One other individual I would like to introduce is our Conservation Director, Kyle Walsh. Kyle, if you wouldn't mind coming on, you can introduce yourself and yeah, just say hi.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for the introduction, and great to see everybody. My name is Kyle Walsh. I'm the Conservation Director for the Land Conservancy of SLO County. Many familiar faces here, and it's really great to see you. I'm glad we got such a great turnout here after the video, and you know, being particularly close to a lot of the projects that we just highlighted in that video. It's still really remarkable to kind of see it all at once. And it just kind of puts it into perspective, especially when you're going through it day to day. And I'm really excited that we're able to share it with all of you today. So we're excited to chat through this, answer some questions, and we're glad you're here.
Okay, also would like to introduce Heather Mullen, who is there. You can, if she can wave, you can all see her. She will be helping moderate the questions, and will ask each of us the questions that come through on the chat. And certainly if we get to a point where there's nothing happening in the chat, we can go verbal and have a discussion. So Heather, I welcome you to say hello.
Thank you, Kyla. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I have been harvesting questions here from the chat, and I've got a bunch of them together and ready to go. So whenever the directors are ready, I can start firing questions at you.
I think we're ready. Let's do it.
All right. So one of the first questions we have tonight is, what were the biggest challenges the Land Conservancy of San Luis Obispo faced during the last year with all the COVID restrictions, and how were they addressed?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll stick to the top line stuff because I'm sure I could go into lots of detail, but I think for us, one of the hardest things just from an emotional perspective was having to close the Octagon Barn Center, not realize that amenity for a full over a year. for our community, and then to intermittently have to close the Pismo Preserve and judge when it was best time to do that, when we should reopen it, how to do it safely, because people flocked to the preserve for a lot of good reasons. But during the pandemic, that we were concerned for our own staff safety and the safety of others, and had to close it down at certain times. That was just such a hard thing to do, because we know that the Pismo Preserve and other open space areas were so important to people's health and well-being during the pandemic. So yeah, that was a tough one, but certainly in keeping our staff safe. Our team works out in the field on restoration projects. We usually work close together and have that camaraderie and get to brainstorm and work together in the same building, and we lost that overnight. So keeping up communications and keeping all these amazing projects moving forward was definitely tough. But we pushed through, and a lot of great things happened, and our team took care of themselves and took care of those that they were working with. So we're grateful for that. But we're all certainly missing that connection with our community and our donors that we have not been able to do in the same way that we usually would. We miss you all a lot.
All right, so moving on to the next question. How did learning among the Oaks adapt to the pandemic? So right along those same lines.
Yeah, I can build on what I was saying there. Basically, the heart of that program is getting kids together and having our 4th and 5th and 6th grade Oak ambassadors take their peers out on amazing learning hikes in our Oak woodlands. And so you can imagine that really that was one of the biggest challenges, was how do we keep connected with the kids? How do we keep them connected with nature education when we lose the ability to really get out there in nature with them? But our staff are awesome. Bev, Ging, and Alex are on the call here, and they pivoted to basically do what we called our Oak Nature Club, and stay connected with the kids and their families, and encourage them to get out on their own with their families, and basically reinvent our programming in a virtual setting. And the schools were very supportive, set us up with some of the infrastructure or software and Google rooms that we need, or all the rooms that we needed to work virtually with the kids. And I would just, give Alex or Bev the chance, if you guys want to add, at all to that, or maybe a story from one of the kids and their families, you're welcome to do that. But yeah, it was a challenge, but we kept it going, and we're grateful that kids still got to experience that curriculum and program.
Yeah. Kylie, do you want me to chime in? Just
briefly, so we can get to all the questions.
So briefly, I just wanted to say, Kyla, thanks so much, because you nailed it on what we did. But I wanted to add that we also did a really cool field guide project, and we have one for the Pismo Preserve that we're really proud of. So it was cool. The kids really appreciated it, and we got tons of positive feedback from the parents. Thanks.
Of course. Heather, what's next?
Well, along those same lines, people are really wanting to know what's next for learning among the Oaks.
Yeah, so back in fall, we hope, right, to get back into the schools in fall with full-time school and be able to do the hikes. Still likely to have to use precautions related to COVID, but hopefully we'll get back out there. And currently we are in 3 schools. So that's, I'm blanking on names, of course: Vineyard Elementary in Templeton, Santa Margarita Elementary, and Ocean View Elementary. And someday we hope to expand the program, but right now we're really focused on doing the program really well in those schools, and then offering a little bit lighter program to other schools in the county and in the districts. But it's just such a beloved program, and we are actually basically we have a wait list of schools that want to have the program there. So we're hoping to be able to expand eventually.
Yeah, Kyla, if I might just jump in here as well. One of the things that you heard Kyla mention in the video was that Santa Rita Ranch will also really function, among other things, as a headquarters for a lot of educational opportunities. Certainly one of the most important among them is going to be the Learning Among the Oaks program, having a living classroom there for not only those participating schools, but for other schools in the area to come and visit and experience the ranch and all of its glory right out there. I think is something we're incredibly excited to offer. I would also say that, you know, the kids who have gone through this program have really helped preserve the program itself. I mean, Bev and Alex, of course, have been just exceptional, but the kids, the school children have been so adaptable and so adaptive and responsive to these changes throughout COVID, and they have found ways to continue to engage with the program. They have found ways to continue to advance their understanding of Oak Woodlands. I think they have certainly surpassed my expectations. I think Bev would probably agree that these kids are just exceptional. And even in the face of a pandemic, they have found ways to remain engaged, enthusiastic, and getting, if not all the way out into the wilderness, finding ways to still understand, engage, and educate themselves about the importance of Oak Woodlands. So it's we can't wait to get them back out, of course, but the program is, despite the pandemic, has continued to move forward and really even thrive.
We had another great question come in. Someone wants to know, are the field guides for Learning Among the Oaks and available to the public?
If I can speak on this really quick, we're
Okay.
hoping to order new print copies of them. We have about 8 left in the office, and once we get a new batch in, we're really hoping that we can distribute them to the public for everybody that wants one for a small donation, which would be great.
Thank you, Alex. Back on the topic of the pandemic, people are wondering more about the Octagon Barn and opening, what we're anticipating around that.
Yeah, so throughout the pandemic, we've been following, the requirements of the state and the recommendations of the state and the CDC. And so the barn has been closed through the duration of the pandemic. We are hoping that if the state lifts all of the tiers, as they have said they might, in June or mid-June, that we might actually open the barn shortly thereafter. We're keeping an eye on the pandemic and case rates, and it's really important to us to protect our staff, of course, as I mentioned earlier. And we're hoping that we can start opening for events this summer, and certainly by the fall, as long as the trend continues the way it has been. So we're taking it one step at a time, but we can't wait to get it open. We have a lot of people excited about using it as soon as we can host events. So stay tuned, but hopefully within the next couple of months.
Thanks, Kyla. Here's a real interesting one. A few months back, a pregnant rattlesnake was killed at Pismo Preserve, and she's wondering what measures are in place now to prevent situations like that again and to protect our wildlife that are vulnerable also.
Sure, maybe I'll take a shot at answering this question. That was an incredibly unfortunate incident, and I would love to think that it is an isolated incident. I certainly hope that that is the case. One of the first things that we did in response to that incident, beyond just sort of reaching out and sort of educating people as to what happened and why it happened, was to actually host a snake event on World Snake Day. And it brought together hundreds of people who got to come out and get educated about the importance of all snakes, not just rattlesnakes, but certainly rattlesnakes as well, to the preserve and to the ecosystems in which they live in. And I think that's a really good start, getting all those hundreds of people out there and educated about the importances. And then they went away, hopefully enthusiastic and supportive of that. is really the best way that we can go about this. To us, I think that is really what good stewardship looks like. You know, when we talk about stewardship, one of the things that we always need to ask ourselves is, what are we the stewards of? And in this particular instance, we are very clearly the stewards of a very healthy population of rattlesnakes. And we want to continue to be good stewards to them, but we also want to provide a safe environment in which people can recreate.
Thank you, Daniel. The next question is a two-part question. How does the Land Conservancy learn about properties where the owner may be interested in a conservation easement? And are there particular areas, habitats, or types of land use that are priorities for conservation in San Luis Obispo County?
Jump in here. Most of the projects that we have an opportunity for an easement with, we hear about either directly from a landowner, maybe through somebody we've already worked with, we get connected, but it's almost always something to the effect of landowners talking over the fence about their experience with conservation. Sometimes that's experience with the Land Conservancy, and sometimes it's experience elsewhere, either in the region or the state, and we end up popping up on the radar of a landowner who's interested in protecting their property, or at the very least exploring it. We almost never actively pursue conservation of property when the landowner hasn't independently reached out to us in advance. It's important to us that it's a voluntary process, and frankly, the whole process usually works better when we're both really motivated to pursue conservation somewhat independently. We have a variety of priority areas around the county right now. I'll highlight a handful. One would be what we generally call the Adelaide. It's essentially the northwest corner of our county. So if you imagine north of Highway 41, but south of the county line, and essentially entirely west of Highway 101. It's this big block of land that functions really well for working lands. There's a lot of long-standing family ranches, functions really well for wildlife habitat. It kind of checks almost every box we could possibly want to check when we look for a property to conserve, or when we're pursuing something like that. Another area that's certainly been more on the radar in just recent years would be Diablo Canyon. And we're really fortunate to be working towards a conservation outcome on the Diablo Canyon lands. And there's a lot more uncertainty surrounding the future of that, because there are a lot of, nothing's necessarily for sale yet, but we're certainly actively engaged in that discussion and hoping to see those lands be permanently protected in the future. And the area immediately around the city of San Luis Obispo, and immediately to the west going towards Morro Bay, both the Chorro Valley and the Los Osos Valley are areas that we've had both a lot of opportunity and have really identified as key areas to protect over the years. The Los Osos Valley in particular remains a really high priority for us. Parts of it function as the slow green belt, parts of it function as the Los Osos green belt. We really want to keep those communities distinct and separate. And it also happens to have some of the greatest farmland in our county that's still relatively undeveloped, intact, kind of one long stretch. And as we piece together new opportunities there, and we're successful with projects in that general region, we can help hem in land use to the places that are already developed on either side, and try to protect both the farmland and the scenery that we all enjoy. So I would highlight those three areas in particular. We certainly have opportunities and projects throughout the county, but those three areas in particular are places that we consistently work and have deliberately sought to pursue conservation projects there.
Thank you, Kyle. Another question is, where is some of that new acreage located? And I'm not sure if they're referring to Atia or Santa Rita, so maybe we could touch on both.
Yeah, a lot of our new acreage in the last year would be the Highway 46 region. So we did add thousands of acres of new protected lands, both in conservation easement and under fee ownership by the Land Conservancy. 3 of those projects were along the Highway 46 West corridor. That's the southern portion of the Adelaide region that I mentioned before. And sort of just an absolutely remarkable opportunity that we had there, and remarkable that we've been able to see success in a relatively short period of time with the 4 ranches that we've protected. So 3 of those 4 were protected in just the last year, all along Highway 46 West. The Atia Ranch that was featured in our video just a few moments ago, that is on the far northern end of the Adelaide. It abuts the county line with Monterey, and it abuts Lake Nacimiento. So kind of the far northwestern corner of the county. That project will close likely this calendar year. It's really a matter of time to get that project kind of through the process, but it's the easements are all ready to go. So a bulk of our recent successes, and also the projects we hope to complete in the coming year, in the calendar year, are really focused in the Adelaide region.
Thank you, Kyle. A question, we got a few questions now on Santa Rita Ranch specifically. Someone's wondering, did the Land Conservancy purchase all of Santa Rita Ranch or just portions? And if just portions, does the Land Conservancy plan on acquiring a conservation easement over the portion of Santa Rita Ranch that has not yet been purchased?
So colloquially, the Santa Rita can mean the single parcel that we did acquire at the end of 2020. In that regard, we did protect all of the Santa Rita Ranch. However, the families that have owned the Santa Rita over the last handful of decades, it did include other parcels in the region. In this case, there was a single about 1,700 acre parcel that we did protect and now own as a Land Conservancy. There are parcels nearby that are part of that same historic homestead. If there's opportunities to protect them, that is something we certainly pursue and discuss as an organization. We don't have anything active. We don't have an active opportunity to protect any other land specifically related or adjacent to the Santa Rita at the moment.
Thanks, Kyle. All right, let's see. We've got a few more questions coming up now, but they're off the subject of Santa Rita. Did any directors have anything else they'd like to add on Santa Rita before we move on?
I would just add that, Daniel talked about the educational element, and we're just really excited to get to planning the future of the property as we talked about in the video. It really is a beautiful, special place. And, we've seen a lot of ranches, a lot of places in this county, all of them beautiful. But the trees on the Santa Rita are incredible. And that lake and the water that flows there is just really important. And so we're just really grateful to have managed to purchase it, but there's more to do. We still need help. We can use contributions towards it to take care of the stewardship and maintenance of the property. And eventually, I'm sure we'll have volunteer opportunities and chances for people to engage and help us with the educational programming. But very, very exciting to have purchased the ranch and protected it and within this whole network of newly protected lands. So it's an exciting time.
Thanks, Kyla. Okay, moving on. Next question. Beyond the Pismo Preserve, what is the plan to allow the general community access to areas such as Black Lake and the Santa Rita Ranch? They recognize that it's challenging giving, balancing conserving land and access to the community.
Yeah, maybe I'll chime in here. As I mentioned a moment ago, when we talk about stewardship, we always ask the question, what are we the stewards of? And then we do frequently look to how can we balance that good stewardship with public access where and how it's appropriate. Thankfully, places like the Pismo Preserve were designed with that public access in mind. And of course, it's adaptive management, as I illustrated with the rattlesnake example. But other places like Black Lake, are very sensitive. And so we have very limited opportunities, or we offer, I should say, limited opportunities to go out to those properties, because our presence there, even more than just a handful of times a year, can really be seen in the dunes. The dunes is just a very fragile environment. That being said, and COVID notwithstanding, I would encourage everybody who's attending here tonight to get on our mailing list, so that you will get emails and our newsletters, which will tell you when opportunities come up. Beyond just properties that we own and manage, like Black Lake and certainly Pismo Preserve and Santa Rita and others, we do also offer hikes on our conservation easement properties. And this is, I think, one of the cooler things that we get to offer to our members, in as much as these are otherwise private properties. These are not properties that are owned by the Conservancy or other state or public agency. These are private ranches that we have worked with the landowners to secure a conservation easement on. And as part of the negotiation, we oftentimes try to secure an ability to take our donors, typically small groups, maybe 20 or less individuals, out onto these properties a handful of times a year. The only way to get informed about those opportunities is to get on that mailing list. They do fill up fast, but they are just exceptional. Jeff and Joan Buckingham, who are here tonight on this Zoom, we have had opportunities to go out to their just absolutely phenomenal piece of property on the south side of Hollister Peak here locally, otherwise known as the Cerro Alto Ranch. So thank you, Jeff and Joan, not only for engaging with us to do just outstanding conservation, but also for opening up your ranch to our members, so they get to see what you see all year round and really fully understand and appreciate that landscape that much more. And that's just one example. We have conserved nearly 30,000 acres in our county. Many of those have opportunities to get out and about on them. So again, just really encourage you to sign up if you're not already on that list, so you get those opportunities in front of you.
Thanks, Daniel. Okay, how about we take a little break from questions and we do some drawings? How's that sound? Anyone feel like winning? All right, time to win. Jamie, you want to take over from here for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited because we actually have a bunch of prizes to give away. But I'll start with the 2-night stay at Seacrest. You might not, there we go, Seacrest Oceanfront Hotel, and one of our premier gift bags, which I don't even have time to list everything that's in here, but there's a wine from Niner, there's a Gopher Glen hard cider, there's one of those coveted Learning Among the Oaks field guides, and a bunch of other swag from all of our gift bag sponsors. So we'll draw that one first, and then we have a couple more. Okay, and if I say your name, unmute yourself and let us know you're here, because we have a lot of participants and I don't want to miss you. Are Susan and Myron Hood on the call? If not, I will draw.
No, we are here.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Yay. Congratulations. So you guys won that gift bag and the 2-night stay at Seacrest.
Thank you. Wow. Wow.
That's an exciting way to end the night. Okay, now we have a couple more. We have a beautiful gift bag from Sycamore Mineral Springs. If you can see it, it looks like a bunch of poppies right now. It doesn't include a hotel stay, but it does include a bottle of Turley Zinfandel, one of their beautiful soft robes from their spa, and a box of spa goodies and many other things in here. So draw out of my giant bag. All right, Abe Pearlstein. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
you.
I am here. Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome.
What is it? What is it again?
It is a gift bag from Sycamore Mineral Springs with a bunch of spa goodies.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Yeah, and a bottle of wine and some low note hard seltzer from Central Coast Brew.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
How do you pick these up?
Oh, good question. You can pick them up from our office at 1137 Pacific Street, but I'll put my email in the chat and you can reach out to me. I also have your email, so I'll
Okay,
reach
thank
out
you.
to everyone who win.
Thank
I have 2 more prizes to give away. I feel like Ellen DeGeneres here. It's very exciting. So I have 2 prints from Forever Stoked. Again, you're not going to be able to see them because of, hold on, I'm going to stop my background. Okay, so we have this beautiful print of Morro Bay from Forever Stoked Art Gallery. And that's going to go to Roger Wilcox, if he's on the Zoom. Roger Wilcox, going once, going twice. Okay, let's do another one. Betty Culp. Is Betty Culp on? We're going to go through this a little bit quickly. Let's see. How about Joel Pearlstein? Are you 2 related?
Yes, we are cousins, but we live quite far apart. I'm in San Francisco.
I can't believe you won, Joel. Oh my God.
I've never done anything in my life hardly, so very good.
That's great. Well, this prize will ship easier than the spa package.
Yes.
So that's good. All right. And then we have, last but not least, this beautiful print of the Pismo Preserve, also from Forever Stoked. And that's going to go to Claire Sheehy. If Claire's on the line, unmute yourself. Claire, no. All right, in that case, what about Suzanne Mumby?
We're here.
Oh, great. There you go. Congratulations. All right, I have all of your contact info, so I'll be in touch with more details, and I'll also drop my email in the chat if you have any questions.
Thanks,
the giveaway
Jamie.
was not fixed for the Pearlsteins.
Well, congratulations to everyone who won. I hope you really enjoy it. And if you don't already have a gift bag, you're in for a treat when you see what's involved in those. Let's see, where did we leave off here? Okay, here's another really fun one. Someone's asking, could the director speak to the Land Conservancy of San Luis Obispo's action regarding the property purchase in support of the Bob Jones Trail, and how the state grant could fund the full construction of the project, and what can be done to expedite and support this?
Excellent. That's a great question. So Land Conservancy for a long time has supported the Bob Jones Trail. Bob Jones was one of our board members in the early days, and we over many years have been buying portions of lower San Luis Obispo Creek. Many of you will know it by the apple orchards that you pass on Highway 101. And part of that was to protect the creek, to protect local agriculture, but it was also to help facilitate the extension of the Bob Jones Trail. And certainly the Octagon Barn Center is not only a really special event venue, but also a future staging area for the extension of the Bob Jones Trail, which will connect the Octagon Barn Center to the Ontario Road parking lot that is the current trailhead for the existing trail. So we've been doing a lot to help make that happen, and the county is the lead on the project itself. And they were recently awarded over $18 million from the state to complete the construction of the trail, which is a really, really big deal. It means that we can actually build it. And so the County Parks and County Public Works will be leading that project. We will work with them to grant rights of way across our property. And the beauty of that is that they will connect to the barn. People will get to set out on the octagon, from the octagon barn on their bikes with their strollers for a walk with their dog, whatever the case may be, and be separated from the road all the way down to Avila Beach. And through our apple orchards that are currently farmed in part by Jake and Raven, who you saw on the video, and those apples go to the Avila Valley Barn. And also our restoration areas, we recently completed that wetland project down there. So if you go to San Luis Bay Drive and head towards Monty Road, you can get a peek at that. And especially after the rains, lots of amazing birds and wildlife enjoying that new wetland. So people will be able to not just drive past that, but walk, ride their bikes, etc., past that, all of that amazing lower part of San Luis Obispo Creek. And it will also serve as essentially a commuter, a way for people to commute under alternative transportation, right? By bike from South County to work into San Luis Obispo. And that's a big reason why the state granted that funding. And the way that everybody can help with the project is to stay engaged. It will go sometime in the next couple of months. We'll go to the County Board of Supervisors to officially accept the grant and authorize the project to move forward. So be on the lookout for that. We will keep our membership in the loop, but that's a chance to reach out to the supervisors and show your support. Of course, contributions to the project are always appreciated, but really it's that community voice that really advocating for the completion of the project is really important, and it has been all along the way. So yeah, we're just really excited, and that's a great question. I'm glad we got to talk about that project.
Thanks, Kyla. Yeah, that was a fun question. So we're down to really just one more question. So if you guys have more while we're answering this question, be sure you get them in, and we'll make sure everyone's heard tonight. Okay, so what we have is, can you explain, this is back to our property management again. Can you explain the direct purchase versus the easement in terms of your responsibility as the Land Conservancy?
Yeah, I can take at least part of that question, and Daniel and Kyla can interrupt me if they'd like to add something. A direct purchase versus an easement can have a really dramatic effect on both what it is we're protecting on a property and the costs that it requires. Generally speaking, owning property, so directly purchasing it with the intent that LC Slow as an organization is going to own it into the future, is a lot more expensive, as you would imagine, than an easement. Part of that is just the cost of buying property in California. Certainly coastal California is expensive. But part of it is just having to manage and maintain property for a variety of conservation values over a really long period of time. An easement is typically anywhere from 30 to 40% of a property value. So it is more affordable for us to protect properties through an easement. It's just easier to fundraise. There's more opportunities typically for funding, whether it's from the state or from local donors, whatever it might be. The goals are usually quite different in that case. As a Land Conservancy, ideally we're going out to that easement property just once a year to make sure everything is kind of remaining the same. And if there's changes, that they're okay. They're not against the easement terms. So generally speaking, it's a lot less costly, both just to complete a project and then to maintain the project over time for a conservation easement compared to owning property, as you might imagine. All of that said, Santa Rita is a good example of a property where an easement wasn't an option. The property was for sale on the open market. And if we wanted to protect it, we had to find a way to acquire it. And acquiring property like the Pismo Preserve or the Santa Rita also lets us pursue other options. So it could be public access. It could be getting kids out on the property to tie into our oak education program. It could be just actively restoring portions of property like we have done in the lower San Luis floodplain preserve. So typically when we're buying property, it's expensive, but it facilitates other goals that we couldn't really otherwise do with just an easement.
Got a couple more for you now, Kyle. Can you explain, oh, that wasn't it. Does the Land Conservancy have to pay property taxes on the land in fee purchases?
Generally speaking, we don't. As a nonprofit, we qualify for what's known as a welfare exemption with the county that essentially allows us to not pay property tax. That would change if we were deriving some sort of significant income off the property. So it wouldn't be necessarily for anything that we own, but generally speaking, yes.
Okay, great. And does the Land Conservancy work with other local regional land trusts?
We do. We work with local land trusts, regional land trusts, statewide, nationwide. It depends quite a bit on the project. Locally, we've partnered with Cayucos Land Conservancy at Toro Creek. Some of you may have seen news about that project over the past year. That's been an excellent partnership. We partnered with the Conservation Fund, who is they're a national land trust organization, and they helped facilitate the Santa Rita Ranch acquisition. Those are two very different scale projects and very different scale partners, but absolutely, whenever we have the opportunity to partner with another land trust, when it's going to facilitate the project, when we can either help bring our own expertise to bear or we're seeking it, we're always up for a partnership.
Okay, let's see, we got a couple more good ones here. They're really fun. So we'll start with, are there any plans to eliminate the eucalyptus at the Black Lake Preserve?
I'll let Daniel take that one.
Yeah, how did I know you were going to kick that one to me? It's a good question, and it seems like I'm fielding a lot of the stewardship questions here tonight. I think the short answer is we will be eliminating probably 80% of the eucalyptus that occur at Black Lake. I think we all can appreciate why, or at least I think most people on this Zoom call understand the importance of restoring native habitats and so forth. But one of the species that uses Black Lake, albeit it's less well known, is the monarch butterfly. And of course, we have the different monarch groves up and down the coast, the most well-known of which is there in Pismo Beach. But we get significant populations, when in fact there are significant populations to be had, of monarchs that overwinter at Black Lake. In fact, we have annual counts that go on there. Same group that counts them at state parks counts them at Black Lake. And there have been years where our numbers are comparable to those at Pismo Beach. So, again, going back to this notion of, are we caring for all the things that we should be caring for out there? This pretty expansive monarch population, overwintering population at Black Lake, relies on the eucalyptus there to overwinter. And were we to remove that, all those eucalyptus, no doubt that that population would have a pretty direct and negative impact. There's some other aspects, though, about Black Lake that make it really an exceptional overwintering site. And again, I'll just put in a plug to sign up for those hikes again, because then you'd get to see this firsthand. But the eucalyptus themselves, that 20% that we hope to, or that we intend to save, really borders a little meadow, and that meadow traps a lot of dew in the morning, and the butterflies, and this is, if you've never experienced this, you really should. It's just a phenomenal experience to see these large clusters of monarchs as the day warms up burst off into flight and then descend down into the meadow to do what we call dew drinking. The proximity of this meadow on the lee side of those eucalyptus makes it for really an exceptional overwintering site. So the short answer is we will remove a lot of, but not all of, the eucalyptus at that site.
Thanks, Daniel. I really love this next one. It's not actually a question. It just says Wild Cherry Canyon. And I think that's perfect.
Well, I'll try to guess what the question really is, but probably just, are we working on it and what might happen out there? And Kyle mentioned early on the Diablo Canyon lands, and we are working on that in partnership with the Yaktichu Tichu Yaktilhini tribe and Cal Poly and many other community stakeholders and groups to try to protect as much of the Diablo Canyon lands as we can, and that includes Wild Cherry Canyon. Some of you I'm sure have followed the news. It's mired in lawsuits and other things going on there. So if and when it becomes available, we will do our best to try to purchase it and protect it. Yeah, I guess that's the bottom line. There's not a lot to do right this second, but we are working in the background to make sure that we're well poised for that and seeking partners and donations in particular to help make sure that we can act on that when the time comes. I hope that answered it, but it really is another amazing landscape, and we hope that we get to do something there in partnership with the tribe in Cal Poly.
Thanks, Kyla. That's a great update. It looks like that's it for our questions. So if the directors, if you guys want to close out with a few words.
Yeah, Daniel or Kyle, do you want to go first, and I'll close this out? Either of you want to say anything?
Sure. Yeah, I would just, again, thank everybody for showing up. I know in a year that has been just full of Zoom meetings, certainly for me, and I know that's true for probably many of you here. We tried to create an evening that would be both interactive in this format, but also be entertaining with the video, and I hope you found it that way. That video will stay on and live sort of forever on YouTube. So if you were watching it on the small screen to see the comments come in, I'd encourage you to go back and watch it on the biggest screen possible in as high a definition as you can, because it's just, I've watched it several times, and even though I get an opportunity to go out to those landscapes, it just blows me away when you can see it from some of the advantage points that drones and so forth give you. Again, I would just say what we have said. I think hopefully a number of times you've heard this message, but I want to say it one last time from me to all of you. We could not do this work without you. It's just as simple as that. It takes a community. Conservation is, I like to say, a patient practice. It's not something that goes fast. It is not something that is inexpensive. It takes patience, it takes resources, and we are so fortunate to work in a place that not only has the kind of resources that we want to conserve, but we have a community who supports us in that effort. So again, thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed the evening.
Kyle, did you want to jump in?
Hard to follow a pretty good summary by Daniel, but I would echo that the annual reception is a highlight of the year. Certainly, it always was for me, and we're just really happy we found a way to make this happen for everyone and bring this community together this year after having to skip last year. It's really great to see everybody. We're really happy you joined, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again next year. And in the interim, ideally, we'll see you out on some of those Eastman hikes as things get back to normal.
Awesome. Yeah, I think Daniel did a great job summarizing it. I would just echo thank you to our sponsors, and I would love to our main event sponsors were American Riviera Bank, the City of San Luis Obispo, 10 Over Studios, Sems & Co Builders, Central Coast Community Energy, Wallace Group, and Central Coast Snake Services. And we had a bunch of other sponsors help with the gift bags, and just want to make sure that give a shout out to them and frequent their businesses, amazing community businesses that we get to work with, and thank all of you. Really inspiring, and for us, even as staff and board, to sit back and watch the video. As Daniel said, it's like, oh yeah, we did this, and we did this with the community, and we couldn't have done it without you all. So thank you, and stay healthy. And we hope to see more of you in person in the months to come, and just really appreciate you spending.
I don't know what happened to Kyla, but I think she was about done. That is the perfect way to end a Zoom annual reception. You know, we have to be able to laugh at ourselves and all these little things that have been thrown at us this whole year, whether it's a reversed logo on your screen or being cut off or people coming in with second audio. This is just the way the year has gone. But we have, with your help, really made lemonade out of all these lemons this year. So once again, thank you all so much for joining us. And I think we'll wrap it up there. So everybody have a wonderful evening.